for tuning in to Business Daily. Coming to you live from Seoul, I'm Lee Ji-yoon. We have a lot on our plate today, so let's first get started by taking a look at the day's highlights. The Korean government is going to push through with an independent bill on labor reforms after related parties failed to reach an agreement on pending issues by Thursday's deadline. What stories made headlines in global business news this week? China's premier reassures the world that Beijing will not engage in a currency war, while Google and Amazon are stepping up the game in faster delivery. It was an expected move by the Bank of Korea as it held its key interest rate steady at 1.5% for this month. The bank is waiting to see what the U.S. Federal Reserve decides to do with its rate and for some of the dust to settle following the ongoing economic slowdown in China. Our Shin Se-min starts us off.
The Bank of Korea left its benchmark interest rate unchanged at an all-time low of 1.5% for the third straight month as it gauges the economic impact of a possible rate hike by the U.S. Federal Reserve. The central bank governor Lee said Friday that the freeze is aimed at weighing the impact from Washington as well as from China's volatile market. He added, however, that the impact of the Federal Reserve's rate hike is expected to be limited on the Korean economy, setting it apart from other emerging markets thanks to the country's strong economic fundamentals. But other possible uncertainties may paint a different picture.
The impact cannot be ruled out. If the U.S. Fed's rate hike overlaps with other global economic risks, like a further slowdown in China's economy or another slump in raw material prices.
And even if Korea is more sheltered from the blowout of a Fed rate liftoff, it's hard to deny it still may see more problems added to its already sputtering economy.
It is likely China's economy, already in its weak stage, will be shot hard by a U.S. rate hike. Then that will most certainly influence the Korean economy, as it may hurt demand for Korean exporters even more.
Experts say that even though the fundamentals of the local economy may be sound enough to ride out the looming U.S. rate hike, the speed of capital outflow from emerging markets, including Korea and China, could determine how grave a threat it faces down the line. This is why many urge the government to devise different contingency plans, while Seoul says for now it will uphold its wait-and-see approach. The central bank added that the key rate is at a sufficient level to spur growth as the country's economic recovery is on the right track despite global economic uncertainties. Shin Se-min, Business Daily.
Well, meanwhile, Korea's finance chief announced earlier today that unresolved issues regarding the government's labor reform bill will not stop the legislative process beginning next week. Here's our Kwon So-ah with more.
No more delays. Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan announced Friday that the government will push ahead with passing a labor reform bill after expressing disappointment regarding a related meeting the day before. A tripartite committee of government, labor, and management representatives was given a deadline of September 10th to agree on lingering issues regarding the reform, but the meeting turned out to be fruitless. The committee decided on continuing discussion Saturday. However, the government claims further delays could make it difficult for the law to be passed this year.
What's needed at this point is for the labor side to put aside its vested interests for the sake of creating jobs for young people.
Minister Choi stressed the importance of solving the youth unemployment issue and alleviating problems related to non-regular workers through new reforms. The implementation of a wage peak system that would guarantee employment until retirement, but with lower wages after a specific age, should help boost these efforts. The two main issues of contention are whether to allow employers to terminate underperforming workers and unilaterally change rules of recruitment. Both are key measures labor unions strongly oppose. The finance minister also urged labor unions of big companies to refrain from walkouts demanding wage hikes, which are disrupting talks on the labor market revision. The government vowed to go ahead with legislative proceedings with the ruling Saenuri Party next week, regardless of the outcome of Saturday's meeting. However, the finance minister noted that all progress made thus far would be taken into consideration. Kwon So-ah, Business Daily.
Google has rolled out its new payment platform Android Pay on Thursday, now becoming a rival to both Apple Pay and Samsung Pay. With the system, users will be able to make payments at more than 1 million locations in the U.S. All right, Kim Min-ji tells us more.
Google's Android Pay has become the latest to jump on the bandwagon. The new payment platform will be available on smartphones that have near-field communication capability, running on Google's KitKat 4.4 Plus operating system. Like rivals Apple Pay and Samsung Pay, Android Pay allows you to make payments with a simple tap on your phone once your credit card details are stored. Banks which will accommodate the service include Bank of America, U.S. Bank, and PNC, with Citibank and Wells Fargo set to join in the next few days. Google's latest move is expected to intensify competition in the mobile payment services sector as more companies encourage consumers to use their phones rather than plastic to pay. What's more, Samsung Pay is set to launch in the U.S. later this month. Since its launch in August, Samsung Pay has enjoyed success in Korea, with the company saying an average of 25,000 customers have used the service each day. And giving it advantage over Apple Pay and Android Pay, Samsung Pay uses magnetic secure transmission technology, which is similar to the magnetic strip on credit cards. This means it can be used at nearly every terminal that accepts credit cards. Although it remains to be seen whether Samsung Pay will be successful in the US, we won't have to wait long to see who will take up the reins in this thriving market, estimated to be worth $1 trillion by 2017. Kim Min-ji, Business Daily.
Korea's major harvest festival, Chuseok, is one of the best times of the year for family members to come together and celebrate the year's harvest. And of course, when it comes to preparations for this holiday, including gearing up for elaborate ancestral rites, a lot of attention is on the costs involved. Our Lee Joo-young looks at what to expect this year.
Many Koreans will soon be out at supermarkets across the country to get ready for Chuseok, Korea's Thanksgiving holiday. It's one of the biggest holidays celebrated in the country and a time when family members from all corners of the nation gather around to share stories and give thanks for the year's harvest. As homemakers start to think about what they need to buy to celebrate the occasion, concerns are on the rise as costs for ancestral rites involving an elaborate table setup have become more expensive than last year. According to Korea Agro-Fisheries and Food Trade Corporation, Koreans would have to spend more than $164 at traditional markets to buy various fruits, vegetables, and meat dishes, which have seen an on-year increase of around 2%. Prices at major retailers have also climbed by 1%, zipping past $230. By category, the price of vegetables went up, mainly due to a severe drought that peaked in July and August and pummeled the supply of produce. The price tag on local Hanu beef is also up 20% on year due to tighter government controls on supply, while the price of yellow corvina, one of the main ritual foods, jumped around 15% from last year following the mass death of fish triggered by the red tide just weeks ahead of the holiday. But despite rising costs, families are still looking forward to spending quality time together, as you can't put a price tag on being with your loved ones. Lee Joo-young, Business Daily.
So with this week coming to an end, let's take some time to look through some of the global business stories that made headlines this week. And for that, we have our Eunice Kim in the studio. Hello there, Eunice.
Hello, June. Well, it was up and down on the markets this week. Case in point is Japan's Nikkei index. Let's go ahead and zone in to the midweek point this week. Now on Tuesday, the index had lost 2.4%, arriving at a point where it shed all of its gains so far this year. But on Wednesday, it actually went ahead and swelled, leading a rally in Asian markets, jumping nearly 8%. Some of that gain was erased on Thursday, ending relatively flat today. But Wednesday's performance was the largest on-day gain since the height of the global financial crisis in 2008. The historic rally was attributed in part to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's announcement that he'd try to cut corporate taxes by at least 3.3 percentage points in the next fiscal year. Also on Monday, Japan released revised second quarter GDP numbers, which showed its economy had shrunk less than preliminary data had shown, from minus 0.5% to minus 0.3%. German airliner Lufthansa has been mired in a standoff with its pilots, and this week a two-day strike grounded about 1,000 flights, affecting some 140,000 passengers. A German regional labor court intervened on a threatened extension, ruling the walkout illegal on Wednesday and ordered the pilots back to work. The pilots' labor union has been clashing with Lufthansa's management over plans for a low-cost expansion, as well as pay and retirement benefits. This week's strike was the 13th in 18 months, costing the airliner roughly $110 million so far this year. It's no longer enough to have a cool logo and deliver search results. Google is preparing to deliver fruits and vegetables to its clients in the States too. According to Bloomberg, Google will test run delivering fresh produce in San Francisco and a second unnamed U.S. city this year, an expansion of Google Express, its existing delivery service that already transports dry foods, among other products. The move is seen as an effort to keep up with another U.S. internet giant, Amazon, which leads in same and next day delivery service. Amazon Prime now this week announced it will begin testing one-hour restaurant delivery in a select number of cities.
And meanwhile, the World Economic Forum is wrapping up its three-day run in Dalian, China today. And I heard that Chinese Premier Li Keqiang utilized this platform to make some major announcements on the trajectory of the country's economy, which of course has been in the spotlight for a while now.
Absolutely. He did go ahead and say in public that China would not engage in a currency war and that it would not see a hard landing. These were assurances that fell, at least for some, on skeptical ears, given that disappointing data came out this week out of the world's second largest economy. Take a look.
China is facing challenges, but its growth is on track, backed by sound fundamentals and contributing to global economic growth. That was the message China's second-in-command, Premier Li Keqiang, had for his audience of business leaders at a keynote address of the World Economic Forum on Thursday.
China's economy is trending well as it slows down in pace towards increasing stability, though not without difficulties. And the general picture shows more opportunities than challenges. We are capable of realizing the main targets of this year's growth and confident in laying a solid foundation for China's future economic growth.
Beijing's growth goal this year is 7%. And while it appeared to be on track earlier this year, with the summer's stock market rout and surprise currency devaluation, more economists suspect these are signs of a weaker economy than its leaders are willing to show. Fresh data out this week raised deflation concerns as China's manufacturers cut prices at the fastest pace in 6 years in August, the PPI falling by just under 6%. Demand at home and abroad were dull, as trade figures showed both imports and exports had slowed compared to a year earlier. In an apparent effort to ease the mounting concerns, China's finance ministry on Tuesday posted online that it would speed up a stronger proactive fiscal policy that includes more spending in major infrastructure projects and reforming the tax system. To quell lingering fears, Premier Li went one step further.
China will assuredly never advocate a currency war. It's difficult to avoid having competition, but if we cooperate, more so than competing, our mutual benefits will forever be greater than the competition between us.
All right, so China has come out to say that it will not engage in a currency war. But then, didn't we see an unusual move in the yuan yesterday?
Yeah, indeed we did. But this time it was a little bit different because the move was on the yuan's offshore rate, which is a market where Chinese authorities have less leverage. The offshore yuan rate gained 1.2% on Thursday. That's the biggest move on record, sparking suspicions of a PBOC intervention.
Then what could be the reasoning behind this move?
Well, experts say it looks like China's bankers are trying to quell expectations or dampen expectations that the yuan would depreciate further by snatching up the currency on the market. The move also sharply narrowed the gap between the offshore and onshore rates of the yuan from 1.56% to less than 0.5%. Now, this offshore spike follows Beijing's announcement that it will open its onshore currency market to foreign central banks yesterday. So you can see this as an effort to converge the two spot rates to make onshore yuan trade more attractive as part of its bid to get into the IMF's reserve currency basket. All of this reflects China's structural reforms, ironically, to an economy that it says will be more based on the market currents.
So I guess the lumbering process continues.
That's right.
All right, thank you so much for coming in today, Eunice.
You bet.
All right, that wraps it up for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, thanks so much for watching.